Is Final Fantasy VII Remake trying to fix the problematic original? Is FF7R trying to correct OG FF7 and become the new definitive version? Well, the more I look at it, the more that I think that is. And this article, it's not a good sign. Final Fantasy VII director is a bit embarrassed by the original game's social and cultural depictions. Game Informer recently hosted a significant feature about the development of the upcoming FF7 Rebirth. Additionally, the staff reflected on the creation of the original game. Several intriguing stories and comments have been made, with this particular one centered around the perception of the original FF7's social and cultural depictions. Director Yoshinori Kitase acknowledged that the themes of corporate greed, environmentalism, and mental health in FF7 are relevant to modern day, though he has some regrets about how they were depicted. In particular, while Kitase doesn't go into deep detail, he calls those reflections a bit embarrassing due to their naivete. Granted, this is all part of the learning process for the team, and the imperfection may be partially why fans fell in love with the game from the start, but he still feels embarrassed about it all. On the other hand, Toriyama doesn't feel any regrets since the team did everything they could at the time. So here is the Kitase quote. "Considering the way to depict social problems, social issues, and cultural depictions, in some ways, I'm a bit embarrassed by the original title," Kitase says. "In its expression, in some ways, it was very young and naive in itself. That is a learning for us, but at the same time, I do believe that perhaps that is one of the reasons why it was so widely accepted. It's not perfect, and it's kind of uneven and jagged in its young and naive nature of its depiction. Of course, after more than 25 years, there is a lot of personal learning, changes, and growth. But looking back on it, some parts of it, I'm a bit embarrassed." Now, I think that the usual suspects, and we all know who they are, in video games, I think maybe they've kind of gotten into the ear of Square Enix and told them that OG FF7, great game, but a little bit problematic. You know, the way Cid Highwind talks to Shira? Maybe not the best thing. Dine's suicide? Yeah, a bit problematic. I don't think we should really, great game, but I don't know about that. And I think that, Square Enix now feels embarrassed by OG FF7 and that it reflects poorly on them. And when you think about it, Square Enix today couldn't make OG FF7. They just wouldn't be allowed. To me, I think there's motivation to use FF7 Remake to fix OG FF7, That's why Cid Highwind is the way he is. The cigarettes are gone. Seng no longer slaps Aeris. That's problematic. We can't do that anymore. Cait Sith no longer kidnaps Marlene and uses her as blackmail to the party to force them to keep him along after he's betrayed them. That happens in the original game, not in Rebirth. We can't have any moral grayness here, and that's gone. Which is actually quite a powerful part of Cait Sith's character in the OG, because you totally underestimated him. It's like this big, cute, fluffy cat thing literally holding a child hostage and forcing you to keep him along. It's like, what the? Jesus, what is this thing? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is a tinfoil hat thing, but I see the motivation here and I see the results in 7 Remake and Rebirth. I think that FF7R is meant to overwrite the original and become the definitive version of this game. And the tragedy is that this does work on some people. There are people today, TikTok posting broccoli-haired Zoomers who are like, yeah, I know you say the original is the best game, but I can't look at it, all right? I can't. It looks too old. I'd rather play the one that looks newer, that looks like modern graphics, flashier, all this and that. And it's kind of a bullshit thing they've done, in my opinion. It's kind of like using money to brute force the problem. To me, FF7 Remake is like a really crap 1984. It's like it's the title remake does connect it by the hip to the original game, basically forever. Yeah, it'll always be compared for that reason. People will always think it's a remake as long as it's titled that, if they're an outsider, if they don't know the go. It isn't overriding the original, they both exist together and are different things. If they made OG FF7 unavailable, you'd agree and be fighting against that, but it's not. Here's the thing, they can't make OG FF7 unavailable. They can't. There's too many physical copies, there's too many digital copies, but what they can do is they can basically flood the airways. They can just basically make so much FF7 Remake stuff that when you search FF7, that's what you get instead of the original game. You already have to type OG FF7 if you want to get the original FF7. If you type FF7 in Google search or YouTube, you basically get 7 Remake stuff. That said, it's also possible that the public could basically just eventually just not care or reject it, which kind of is already happening, and it will just basically go down as like another bad remake. You know, for example, it's like Metal Gear Solid and Twin Snakes. I think Twin Snakes is much less egregious than 7 Remake. The Metal Gear Solid fandom still considers that to be a bad remake. They say if you're playing Metal Gear Solid, you play the original one. You don't play Twin Snakes. You can play Twin Snakes if you want, but I think that's kind of what's going to happen. I think OG FF7 will survive this, but I also think that's kind of what they're doing. I think they're just trying to right the wrongs of the past with this game. This embarrassing past that makes them look bad. But yeah, this is one of those sentences where once I read it, I can't unread it. And I can't help but think, as I say, that FF7 Remake trilogy is meant to overwrite the original. I don't know. I think it's meant to fix this game they made in the 90s that they feel embarrassed by today. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just a tinfoil hat conspiracy. Maybe I'm just crazy. Whatever you think, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Catch me live on Twitch. Uwu Sugoi and get out of here. That's the video. I'm out of here.